Meteorologists are at a loss to explain what is causing this weather and why it has taken by surprise.
It is the agenda for the 21st century you're living in today. For a brave new world where everything that you cherished and held true will no longer exist.
New Zealand is starting to count the cost of the magnitude 7.5 earthquake that rocked the upper part of the South Island early on Monday. More than 1,000 tourists are stranded in a small town without power or sewage systems.
His bed would have been in this corner here, and before the earthquake happened he would have rolled out and gone out the door here.
Canal full of tens of thousands of dead fish. Many couldn't believe what they were seeing and smelling, lining up to watch and take pictures.
First time I've seen this in my whole life.
They're not just floating on top of the water, they're actually stepping on the bottom of it.
The bunker fish were in the Shinnecock Canal this morning, but then the locks were opened and out they went into the bay.
They're all dead up on the beach and in the water behind the building.
I actually talked to a couple of DEC officers today. They said they've never seen it bad before.
The DEC, or State Department of Environmental Conservation, says it's investigating. Local experts believe they know the cause.
There was a large school of big bluefish in the bay earlier on Sunday. I had a bunch of friends catching fish that were 15 to 20 pounds, and bluefish eat bunker. And they chase the bunker, and when they chase them into a canal like this and the locks are closed, the fish can't escape, and when they get pushed in the numbers of millions, they quickly deplete the oxygen.
So now, a free meal for a lot of young birds who prey on bunker, and an early gift for some fishermen.
Use them for lobster bait, crab bait, fishing bait. So for them, it was almost, a couple of them were saying it was Christmas.
Shocking images out of China show the effect drought has had on the country's largest freshwater lake. The Poyang Lake in China's northern province of Jiangxi was once 3 times the size of Los Angeles, but a lack of rainfall since September has caused much of the water to dry up. Pictures show people walking across the lake bed, cattle grazing on grass, and boats stranded on dry ground. The Lixingdun Island once served as a lighthouse, but is now surrounded by grassland. Local rice farmers who rely on the lake to water their crops could suffer. along with populations of fish, shrimp, and the endangered finless porpoise. It's important to note that the size of the lake often changes depending on the season, but has been shrinking earlier each year since 1952.
4 southern states and Tennessee remains under a state of emergency. Now, the smoke to our east is causing trouble in the mid-state.
It's becoming a common sight across Tennessee. Wildfires and smoky, hazy air.
We do have a huge problem with brush fires getting started.
This air quality alert is due to the wildfires that are going on.
For Vanderbilt University Medical Center allergist Dr. Jonathan Hemler, the fires are fueling phone calls and office visits.
When you breathe those small particles in those patients that have these underlying airway problems like asthma and COPD, they can cause the airways to spasm.
The U.S. Forest Service says it's tracking nearly 3 dozen wildfires across the southeast. Around 5,000 firefighters are battling the flames across about 80,000 acres of land. A long drought has left the region dry and vulnerable to fast-moving fires.
Conditions are terrible. It's so dry. Even just tossing a cigarette out in your front yard can cause a fire.
I've lived here all my life, 65 years. Never seen it like this. Just hopefully it rains. But I don't see no rain in the forecast.
Some of the fires are largely contained, others are spreading quickly.
Oh, I'm concerned. It was up there at the top of the ridge and now it's down to here.
The fires have been filling the region's air with thick smoke. 18 counties are listed as having unhealthy air quality in western North Carolina as of Tuesday.
"2016 is set to be the hottest year on record. Global average temperatures this year are 1.2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, dangerously close to the 1.5 degree mark set in Paris.
The world is set for a new heat record in 2016 following sizzling temperatures last year. But talks at the current climate change conference in Marrakesh are being overshadowed by Donald Trump's election. The US president-elect has called climate change a hoax and is reportedly seeking ways to pull the US out of the 2015 Paris Agreement.
I don't really want to speculate on what the new guys would do, but in every agreement there are provisions for how a person or a country might withdraw from it, and there are the same in this one.
2016 has been hot. So hot, in fact, that it's very likely it will be the hottest year on record. This is the 3rd year in a row that we've had extreme highs. 2014 and 2015 also had record-breaking temperatures, and a report from the World Meteorological Organization predicts the trend is just going to continue. The organization reports temperatures are about 1.2 degrees Celsius warmer than pre-industrial temperatures. And that's pretty significant because it puts Earth's climate really close to the threshold noted in the Paris Climate Agreement signed last year. In that deal, countries pledged to work together to cap temperature increases at 1.5 degrees Celsius. The report says an El Niño event is partly to blame for the heat wave. The event caused sea levels to rise 15 millimeters between November 2014 and February 2016 and contributed to coral bleaching. Earlier this year, carbon emissions hit a milestone Earth might not ever recover from.
Take a look at what we saw here in New York this Monday morning, 6:22 a.m. That super moon, it looks like a movie when you see that plane go right by. Just gorgeous.
It's actually called a super duper moon, and it is that.
People around the world are enjoying the sight of Monday's supermoon. Scientists call this extraordinary phenomenon a perigee.
The much-anticipated supermoon shines bright over Washington, D.C. The U.S. Capitol's famous marble monuments and Capitol Hill are bathed in light. Scientists say the moon was brightest in the U.S. on Monday morning, just before dawn. China also got a taster of the supermoon on Sunday. The phenomenon occurs when the timing of the full moon coincides with the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to Earth. Skywatchers climbed to the top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Australia to get a closer view of the moon at its largest and brightest in almost 7 decades.
For at least a night, it's something the entire world can share.
This is the supermoon, here glaring over Bondi Beach in Sydney, echoing through buildings in Berlin, even towering over temples in Japan.
Can you please respond to what this will mean for the Paris Agreement?
Our expectations, and I hope that duly elected President-elect Mr. Trump will really hear and understand the seriousness and urgency of addressing climate change. It's not only just a few countries. I think most of all the countries, 193 now, they have signed, and more than 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions are accounted for by 109 countries.
Swedish prosecutor has spent the day questioning Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London over allegations of sexual misconduct in Sweden 6 years ago. It's something that the WikiLeaks boss strongly denies.
Ever since he entered the embassy doors, he has been asking Swedish authorities to carry out the questioning either here in London or via video link. And up until recently, the Swedish authorities had refused. We know that the questions are being asked by an Ecuadorian prosecutor on behalf of the Swedish authorities that have travelled here. That all needs to be translated. When he first came here over 4 years ago, Julian Assange was sought for questioning in Sweden on allegations of 4 counts of sexual misconduct, which he denied. 3 of those allegations have now expired under Sweden's statute of limitations. Throughout it all, Julian Assange has said that he fears the entire case is just a ploy to get him extradited over to the US, where the FBI is investigating him for espionage.
It's time that the Obama administration treats WikiLeaks for what it is, a terrorist organization whose continued operation threatens our security. Shut it down.
Information terrorism, which leads to people getting killed, is terrorism. And Julian Assange is engaged in terrorism. He should be treated as an enemy combatant. WikiLeaks should be closed down permanently and decisively.
That's over the Iraq war leaks, for which former Army Private Chelsea Manning is currently serving a 35-year jail sentence for sending information to WikiLeaks.
A new legal action involving WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, with Swedish prosecutors questioning him about sex crimes allegations that date back about 6 years. The interview is taking place at the Ecuadorian embassy in London, as you know, where Julian Assange has been. Benjamin Hall is live in London with more on this story. Benjamin.
Hi, Jenna. Well, yes, Julian Assange has been holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy for over 4 years now. That's 4 years of avoiding justice, 4 years of refusing to answer any questions, 4 years of hiding in plain sight from the authorities over here in London. Well, finally today, 6 years after these sexual allegations were brought against him, and after years of trying just to take a statement from him, Sweden's chief prosecutor was allowed into the embassy in London, forcing her way past hundreds of journalists to question him about these sexual allegations. Assange faces 2 assault counts with 2 separate women in Sweden, but he alleges the accusations are politically motivated, that in reality the aim is to get him to the US, where he might face charges relating to his website, WikiLeaks. It was on the WikiLeaks website that Assange released around 500,000 classified US military documents relating to the Afghan and Iraq wars.
Thousands of people are still outraged at Donald Trump winning the presidential election, a message they are taking right to his doorstep.
Donald Trump, go away! Racist, sexist, anti-gay!
Demonstrators are upset about Trump's policies on health care and the environment. Many are concerned the president-elect will take away rights of women, minorities, and those a part of the lesbian gay community.
We don't support him. We don't support racism, sexism, or homophobia.
I want him to know, personally, that I may have to accept him as president, but I really don't like what he stands for.
We reject the president-elect.
Some are even questioning the legitimacy of Trump's victory over Hillary Clinton, since Clinton did win the popular vote by over 200,000 votes.
I don't believe in the Electoral College. I believe more in the popular vote. But, I mean, obviously it wasn't a turnout. It wasn't a good turnout this year, for one thing. And I think it doesn't represent the view of most Americans.
But they aren't the only ones trying to get their message heard. Calvin Hunt says that he's been with Trump since day one.
And a lot of people say things, a lot of people do things, but at the end of the day, we got to see what kind of job he's going to do. You know, I know he said a lot of wicked things, and I scratch my head a lot of days wondering what's going to come out next out of his mouth. But within the last 24 hours, it's sort of like he's angelic, because now he knows that it's no longer a game. This is not The Apprentice. He's not going to see Dennis Rodman no more, and it's time to get down to business. So if people give him a chance, I think this might be one of the best presidents we've ever seen.
Since Election Day, many have gone as far as expressing fears of bigotry and racial violence against minorities following incidents of harassment and hate crimes. But in a CBS 60-minute interview, Trump told his supporters to stop the harassment.
Don't do it. That's terrible, because I'm going to bring this country together.
They're harassing Latinos, Muslims.
I am so saddened to hear that, and I say stop it. If it helps, I will say this, and I'll say it right to the camera, stop it.
Although the demonstrators know that they can't do anything to reverse the outcome of this presidential election, they still want to get their message out and plan to protest as long as they can.
In Jacksonville, Florida, high school administrators are investigating the posting of 2 signs over water coolers. One said colored, the other whites only. In Colorado, an African-American mother reports her 12-year-old daughter was told, now that Trump is president, I'm going to shoot you and all the blacks I can find. There were flashes of hate during the campaign, signs of trouble, and now that Donald Trump has won, some of his followers have taken hate to the next level. The Southern Poverty Law Center tracking more than 300 hate incidents, almost all immigrant, black, and gay victims, with less than 10%, that's just 20, against Trump supporters. 300 in less than a week is 3 times higher than the average week. In Meriden, Connecticut, these 2 men arrested for assaulting a man waving a sign in support of Donald Trump. The University of Pennsylvania investigating a text thread overrun with images depicting lynchings and harsh racial language. Nadia Browning was one of the targets.
I opened the chat, and there were a lot of derogatory name-calling and just really hurtful things.
They could have killed people over this.
And right here in the Tampa Bay area, neighbors say someone's political message has gone just too far after they discover a home intentionally set on fire.
I don't think they realize how far they're crossing the line.
Deidre Russell has seen this message written around her neighborhood before. We've had to block out a part of it, an expletive written right next to the name Trump.
This is not accomplishing anything.
But this time, Russell says the messengers went too far.
A man who attacked an anti-Trump protester at The Ohio State University has been arrested. The attack was captured on video.
You don't look to compromise. Idiot! Hey, old boy!
You can hear onlookers yelling shame as police let out the suspect.
In an interview with 60 Minutes that aired Sunday, President-elect Donald Trump said he plans to immediately deport between 2 million and 3 million undocumented immigrants, especially those with criminal records. But Trump might not get the help he wants from the Los Angeles Police Department. LAPD Chief Charlie Beck told the Los Angeles Times on Monday the department won't change its policies on deporting undocumented immigrants under Trump's administration.
Migrants scuffle with police on the border between Serbia and Croatia. These are some of an estimated 150, mainly from Afghanistan and Pakistan, who left Belgrade to walk the 125 kilometers to the Croatian border. They were stopped by police from both countries who encircled them. Around 100 broke a Serbian police cordon and tried to enter Croatia across fields.
Well, a brand new threat from ISIS looming over Thanksgiving as President-elect Donald Trump says that his lips are sealed about defeating the terror group.
I'm not going to say anything.
Japan has approved a plan for its troops in South Sudan on United Nations peacekeeping operations. The troops will mainly conduct rescue missions there. The new mandate is in line with security legislation enacted last year to expand the overseas role of Japan's self-defense forces.
The Russian defense minister has accused rebel forces in eastern Aleppo of using chemical weapons in an attack on Syrian army forces 4 days before an international inquiry's mandate for apportioning blame for their use ends. Russia's TASS news agency says around 30 soldiers were caught in the attack, which took place on Sunday evening. Most have been hospitalized in Aleppo. Local media said former al-Qaeda faction Fatah Halab was responsible, adding it was the third such attack by them in a month.
In Syria, the Aleppo Media Center has uploaded drone footage on social media. This footage purports to show the complete destruction of the Al-Shah neighborhood in the city's eastern district. The video reveals destroyed buildings which appear to have been abandoned and streets filled with rubble in the area. The city has been divided for years between the government-held west and the rebel-held east. It's become the most intense front in the war.
The United States is not a member of the International Criminal Court, but its citizens could face prosecution if they commit crimes in a country that is a member, such as Afghanistan. The ICC chief prosecutor says US soldiers and members of the CIA may have used what she calls cruel and violent techniques to interrogate detainees between 2003 and 2014. In her report, Fatou Bensouda wrote, members of US armed forces appear to have subjected at least 61 detained persons to torture, cruel treatment, outrages upon personal dignity on the territory of Afghanistan between the 1st of May 2003 and the 31st of December 2014. The State Department says it doesn't believe an ICC investigation is warranted or appropriate, but analysts say a full investigation is likely if the court decides the US judicial system will not take action. During the presidential campaign, then-candidate Donald Trump suggested that as president, he would change laws that ban waterboarding and other illegal interrogation techniques. So far, all the ICC's trials have dealt with crimes committed in Africa. The ICC says it's now considering a full investigation into allegations against US soldiers and CIA agents.
The International Criminal Court has said that US forces might face a full investigation into war crimes in Afghanistan.
We do stand on the edge of a great new era.
We built this great industrial powerhouse.
The whole idea of industrial capitalism in the West, government that was going to invest in infrastructure.
It is a time for pathfinders and pioneers.
What happened to the American century?
The share of income that we put into infrastructure has gone down starkly.
If you travel around the country, there's just not that much that's new.
What happened to America's ideal of progress?
All these things that had been established after the Great Depression fell apart.
You'll see that whole streets are just closing down.
A community that's undereducated, underemployed.
Baltimore was a blue-collar town. Now the air quality is wonderful because there's no industry here anymore. It's beyond light.
Detroit had a population of about 2 million people in 1950. It's now a little over 600,000.
A huge percentage of the budget goes to the military. This is an economy that's based to a large degree on killing people.
If you were to cut the military budget in half, we'd have a depression in the United States.
So they're literally working full-time and making poverty wages.
You have 1,600 vacant houses. It's insane.
They said, let's save a few dollars and pump the water in from the Flint River.
Decades and decades of being ignored.
Americans are finding themselves in a desperate situation.
They're new states. A lot of talented people here, but you will never know because of the reputation we got.
If you're an entrepreneur right now in America, the last thing you want to do is take risks. This is not a world I want to take risks in.
America is not the pillar of democracy and freedom that it was once seen to be.
Here we are, naked in front of the world. It's a real tragedy.